Hello and welcome to another episode of Statford Bridge, Chelsea by the Numbers. We're back. It's been a while. It's been a while since I recorded a little pod. We did a Chelsea 120 years podcast. We did a post Arsenal podcast. We did a bunch of stuff. Chelsea come back from the international break, the March international break, which historically Chelsea have done a very poor job coming back from. I think we haven't won any of our last four matches before this. And Chelsea come back with a 1-0 win at home to Spurs. Spurs are struggling. Chelsea also kind of struggling. And I think it was a really interesting game. I was able to avoid spoilers, at least until the game was over while I was at work. Watched the whole thing when I got home. And I think this was a strange game in that a lot of the metrics you see here are going to be really even. Like shots, box touches, XG are all going to be pretty even. Like 1.1 to 0.8, 11 shots to 8. I think it's 33 to 26 on box touches. Like it looks really even. I did not feel that way watching the game. I think until the disallowed Pape Matar Sarr goal, which was obviously correctly disallowed. That was a very, very bad tackle and not great goalkeeping. It was 10 shots to 2. It was 1.1 to 0.08 XG or something like that. That does not include the Nicholas Jackson chance, which Opta have decided was not a shot. Other models do. So if you look at things like McClockbot has it at like 1.7. I also think McClockbot does not have it in there as well. Mark R stats also doesn't have it in there. Again, Opta decided it wasn't a shot. I think it very much was a dangerous enough chance that like you should lob it in as a shot, and you're at something like 1.5 to 0.8. But regardless, one of the things that did feel true to me is that Chelsea were significantly more dangerous than Spurs the whole game. I think the last 20-ish minutes, Chelsea dropped off probably too deep. I think, like I said, after the disallowed Sarr goal and previously the disallowed Caicedo goal, I thought Chelsea got very nervous and very anxious and very, okay, well, oh my God, let's just hold on to the win. And that's been a thing this year. Like one of the things that I have repeatedly said is that this team is extremely sensitive to the crowd, and it is an extremely young and nervous team still that late in close games they're winning. Like they are bricking it. They are absolutely bricking it. And I think that's very, very, very true in this game in particular. But they hold on without giving up anything too good. Spurs only get one really good chance. I think it's not as good as the XG thinks it is. Like Son is really at full stretch. Really, really, really at full stretch. But, they hang on. Chelsea win 1-0. And you'll take it. At this point in the season, it really is a get points on the board. Like I keep talking about how I don't think Forest are that good, but they just keep winning games that they don't play that well in. And it is what it is. So, I mean, I think one of the things that's interesting, like Dimitri and McClockbot have a 1.7 to 1. Mark Arstats has it like 1.7 to 1.4. I think one of the things that really surprised me is I thought that the non-XG metrics would like Chelsea significantly more in this match. I thought Chelsea had a ton of really, really, really dangerous box entries that they turned into very little. You think about like the cutbacks that Vicario has cut out, or you think about all the Jadon Sancho 1v1 dribbles in the box that turn into very little. I thought Chelsea didn't really get very much out of those when they could have. And so, like, if you look at cumulative XT, like Chelsea are way ahead and then nothing the second half or the last 35 minutes of the game. And Spurs just kind of gradually come away. But even at halftime, I thought the gulf between those was significantly higher. I thought Chelsea had very, very high quality box entries in this game. And that's kind of where it is. Like if you compare to last year's Spurs at home, Chelsea won that game 2-0, 2.2 to 1.6, 16 shots to 19, negative on box touches, but they're winning the whole game. It kind of is what it is. Like it's a solid ish performance. I think if we want to highlight individual people, I think there's a couple things. I think first, and I hate saying aside from when I talk about Bob Sanchez because that's the thing. Aside from the disallowed SAR goal, which is not very good goalkeeping, though it does take a deflection, which I saw nobody talk about, but it definitely goes off the underside of Colwell's heel. I thought Sanchez was really good. I thought his distribution was very, very good. I thought he claimed a lot of like crosses and cutbacks and stuff. He makes one save in the first half that I thought was excellent. He makes a very good save on the Sun chance, which I think is not as good a save as perhaps people reacted to it, but it's still a quite good save. I thought Sanchez had a really good game. Very solid, did the things he's supposed to do. Gets bailed out that it's a foul on Caicedo, but I thought he was okay. I thought Trevoh Chalobah was special. One of the best games he's played for Chelsea, perhaps ever. I think in possession, he was deadly. Just breaking the press every time. 8 passes in the final third. 49 for 54. In the first half, the diagonals, the step to beat players. He's very good at drawing pressure to one shoulder and then big touch passed into the next line, which I thought he did very well. I thought Nicholas Jackson came back from injury. Also, Cole Palmer and Nani Madueke also made their way back from injury and totally transformed the team in the first half. Like, huge chance to start the game, holding the ball up. Like, Romero could not live with him at all. I thought Chelsea lost a lot when he went off, but again, where he is, I understand it. I mean, I think, like, if you look at the top 4 race, Isak scores every week. Chelsea have been without Jackson, and before that, he wasn't playing very well. I look at it, and it's like he's going to be the guy who gets you there. If he comes back and scores 4 goals in the last 7 games, like I think Chelsea will do it. So, very, very nice to have him back. I thought Cole Palmer looked much more lively off the ball. I think one of the things we've talked about a lot, and I'm going to break out the tactics board and talk about Palmer shortly, but I think one of the things that has happened with Palmer of late is that if he doesn't have the ball, he's not contributing positively. And I think one of the things he did very well in this game was use his movement off the ball to create space for others, and not just by showing deep. I thought he made a lot of really clever runs in depth to open space for Sancho. I thought he had a quite good game. I thought he had a quite good game overall. And sorry about that. And the last player that I should probably flag up the most, and I'll flag Enzo Fernandez as well. Enzo Fernandez plays on the right-hand side of the pitch, scores a goal, looks really good. What else is new? I've said this over and over again. I think the most impressive thing is that Moises Caicedo looked absolutely unbelievable today. Fresh off an international break, normally him and Enzo look a little bit leggy. I thought he was spectacular. 5 passes in the final third, 5 accurate long balls, 4 for 4 on tackles, 5 recoveries, 1 last man tackle. Like, I just thought 9 duels won. I thought he was just so good. And cleaning up cutbacks and cleaning up loose balls and turning and getting out of pressure, which was like, I thought it was genuinely one of his best ever games for Chelsea. I thought he was truly exceptional. So I think all those things are interesting. I thought Chelsea played okay. Like, it was a solid performance. I think if we think about the variance in that performance, I think more often than not, Chelsea give you more than 1-0 in that game. I think the real fun place to take this is to talk about the tactical things, because we saw 2 things that we've seen before this season, but were were more impactful or more worked better than they have in the past. So Chelsea nominally have defended 4-4-2 all season. The wingers mark the fullbacks. The nines mark the sixes and the center backs and kind of step from there. And Enzo and Caicedo end up 1-1, or they end up as a pair in a 4-4-2, kind of depends. What we saw today was a very clear decision from Chelsea to have Neto jump from the left back in Destiny Udogie to Mickey Van de Ven, who is not a great passer. He had a couple really nice passes, but he's not a great passer. He's a very good dribbler, but not a great passer. And to have Palmer stay with the sixes and not initiate the press, and have Jackson apply pressure. And then Sancho's going to man mark as normal, following Jed Spence inside. And so you end up in these situations where it looks almost like a diamond. Sancho follows the fullback inside. Enzo is free to either jump to a fullback or jump into a six. Like, he's kind of the weak side guy who's free. And Neto comes as like a second striker. I think what this was very good at was forcing them to play through Spence and Romero, who teams have done a very good job of making Romero try to beat them as a passer, which is absolutely not his strength. And you ended up with these situations where I thought Chelsea were pretty comfortable with defending depth, which has not been a thing that has looked good this season, where when Chelsea get into these situations to put numbers high to press, it always looks super ropey in the depth. And I thought they managed it very, very well in this game against the front three that's like, no, like Solanke's son and Odegaard can all get in behind. Like, they're not, and Maddison is constantly making like these ones in behind. Like, that's not an easy group to manage. And I thought they did a pretty good job. I think one of the things that I would have liked to see perhaps more is I actually would have liked to see it be the other way, where you have Caicedo as the kind of free man who's jumping and spying things. Because I think there were a bunch of times that Enzo Fernandez had the chance to jump people and was just a little bit late. And I think that's going to be a big thing maybe next season, of can Chelsea free up those moments for Caicedo to go jump people. So I thought it was very interesting that Chelsea were able to build a pretty functional press without being so crazy at the back about it. John McKenzie was tweeting during the game talking about how like Neto jumping to Van de Ven is the obvious one, the place to beat the press. And I think he's right about that what we saw Spurs have quite a bit of joy with was if Van de Ven was able to dribble past Neto without Palmer applying pressure. So think of a situation like the 6 rotates low and the opposite 8 comes into this pocket. If the fullback comes low to bring Sancho, you end up with Van de Ven going into this pocket here, because as Fernandez steps, Caicedo comes to Maddison, and you get Bergvall here, and you get into all sorts of fun 2v1s. And they actually got a few of those moments quite nicely. But it's hard. Like, it's difficult passes to play. Like, you have to execute pretty well. So I was quite happy, I think, with the defensive stuff, especially for the first 60, 70 minutes. I thought after Enzo Maresca went for, like, chose to defend 5-4-1 late, I thought it was a bit much. Like, they were very, very, very deep. Very deep, but didn't have a ton of density. Like, it was still guys defending 1v1 in wide areas, which I didn't really understand. The other thing tactically that came up that I said, hey, we should probably try this earlier in the season. We tried it. It didn't really work. This is the first time we've seen it in a while, was that in possession, it was the same 3 that you would expect Chelsea to build with this back 4. Malagusta goes into midfield. Chalobah, Colwill, Cucurella as your back 3. But what was very deliberate and very interesting is that Cole Palmer was the left 10 and Enzo Fernandez was the right 10. And it was very, very clearly that way. And there were a couple benefits from this, right? Like, the first thing we saw was that whenever Chelsea had the ball on the right side of the pitch, whether that was Neto dribbling inside, whether that was Enzo low, whether that was Chalobah, whatever you want, you have so many interplay options between Jackson and Palmer on the weak side, where if Palmer starts wide and makes this run between the center backs, the center back follows, the fullback narrows, and you end up being able to hit Sancho with space to dribble all the time. Like I had a thought at some point just before Sancho went off where I was like, man, Mudryk would have absolutely feasted today. He would have absolutely wrecked. And that's a crazy thing to think out loud. But like his ability to generate pace to drive at this fullback, like I think he legitimately would have done real damage, significantly more than Jadon Sancho did. Who I don't think was terrible, but I don't think was particularly effective either. So that's one benefit of it, right? Is that Palmer off the ball. The other is the reason that I flagged it up in the first place was when you do end up in that situation, if Palmer makes the channel run, because let's say Jackson is able to occupy the center back, that's a way more dangerous slip to Palmer here than it is to Enzo Fernandez in this exact same spot, right? Like he's on his left foot, you have squares, you have cutbacks, you have him shooting. Those are all much more viable options than Enzo Fernandez doing the same thing. And I mean, the goal comes from Palmer receives in that half space, gets a shot, and then recycles out into a cross for Enzo Fernandez arriving at the back post on his right foot. We saw the same thing on the other side a little bit with Enzo breaking the line, not as frequently. But the thing I like when you have Enzo on the right-hand side is that when he shows diagonally out of the structure, right? Because let's say the winger jumps to Chalobah and you play around Enzo Fernandez, he's just so much more dangerous on his right foot here because he can play Neto, he can cross, he can drive. And all of those spots are just way more dangerous naturally on his right foot to me. And I think it's very clear at this point in the season it's not a solution for every game. And I haven't thought too deeply about why I thought it worked so well against Spurs, but didn't work as well in previous games. Like this was a thing against Bournemouth, if I recall. I think actually Palmer scored from that, but then there was another game where it didn't work very well. So I think there's options there. But I should think more deeply about why it worked so well against Spurs. But it's a nice little tweak in the tool belt. I thought it was a well coached game. I thought Chelsea played okay. I thought the subs came in and were okay. I thought Dewsbury Hall was very good defensively, which was quite interesting. I thought Nani Madueke looked lively. The James was good. We got news before the game that Wesley Fofana is injured again and he'll be assessed, and we don't know what that means. Romeo Lavia pulled up in midweek training. I mean, I think those guys are just perma broken. Like I don't really think you can do anything about it at this point. But that's what the game was. You know, you'll take the win. That is very much for sure. The other thing, Enzo Maresca dyed his beard, which is legitimately one of the craziest things I've ever seen a man of his age do. Like we wouldn't notice. So I thought that was interesting. Coming up, we've got Brentford away, which is going to be a very, very tough match on Sunday. And then into Conference League, Legia, then Ipswich, then Legia, then Fulham as your stretch of games. I mean, like you look at those games in that run of 5, and it's like you just gotta keep winning. You can't drop points anywhere. Like Brentford, Fulham, Ipswich, like you win all of those, and Everton, you give yourself a lot of breathing room going into Liverpool, Newcastle, Forest, and United to end the season. So, I mean, it is Chelsea are on 52 points. I've said that I think 64 is going to be enough for top 5. I think we'll see what City look like without Haaland. We'll see what Newcastle look like after they've won Carabao Cup. But like from 9 games, for them, 14 points would be pretty low. For City, 13 points from 8 games would be pretty low. For Chelsea, 12 points from 8 games would be pretty low. And so it's like, is it going to be 68? And if it's 68, like that's you got to win 5 games out of 8 with a pretty tough schedule. So I think it's really tough. Opta have it as something like 54%. The betting markets have it actually just below 50% implied probability now. It was like plus 125, so like 45%. I mean, Forest continuing to win has like a game. If Forest draw that game, I think Chelsea probably have another 10% equity or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see. I think it's going to be a very, 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 very tight race. And I think it very well will come down to the last day of Chelsea away at Forest. Anyways, that's all from me today. Georgi Petrovic check-in is going to come out on Sunday. I'll probably stream it after the Brentford match on the weekend. Let me know. Let me know what you want to talk about. I went to Nations League. Spoke very briefly to Jonathan David and some other guys down there, which is cool. Probably talk about that on stream. But pretty solid time. It's a nice win, as always, a nice win. And as always, enjoy the soccer.